Subjects serve two main purposes within the Cogniac platform. On the input side, it's basically a repository for your images to then be run across individual applications, whether it be classification, detection, counting, and so on. And on the output side, they are the tags essentially that get labeled, all of the detections that get created by the images that are run across each application. So let's talk about the two different ways you can get things going with subject creation. You can create a subject by default within the application. The most common thing is to give it a name. This could be something random, like random images. This is maybe on the input side where you're going to store images to be processed by the application. And you have a couple of options, permission sets that get applied. By default, it's private, meaning this is a subject that's going to maintain or stay withheld within your tenant only. If it's something that you want to share or a community object that you want shared, you can select publicly readable or writable, but then those cannot be made private again. So by default, most of the time we'll use a private subject. Once I click create, it takes me to that main window for this subject. And from here, you can do a couple of different things. I could look at the settings, I could change the name. You have kind of unlimited flexibility on the naming scheme. You can even have the same subject named the same across different items. It's best to create a subject name that's easy for someone to distinguish and readily available, so there's no confusion. If you ever make the wrong name at the beginning, you can easily change it, and we adapt it with a random character at the end, so it's easily readable, and then also makes it interchangeable across applications. Once this is all set up, the next thing you're going to want to do is upload media to it. So a couple of different ways. If you're using the API, you can certainly upload directly through the API, but for this tutorial, we're going to walk directly through the web interface. So you can see here, I've got a couple of options for settings. You can apply some meta tags to it, which stay with that whole group of image uploads. So if you want to tag this with a specific location or date or something referenceable to this group of items, you can do that. But again, it's optional. And then three other options you have is whether or not you want to use it for training data. So if I'm going to upload 100 images initially, I can set it to force feedback. So when those get processed by an application, they're set as candidate training data. If I also know that these are negative examples, so these are not the item of interest when it gets processed by an application, you can check that flag as well. And lastly, you can put different attribution classes for the license that pertains to each of those. Again, this is an optional field. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and drag some images in here. Let's just say I want to put in kind of some random samples of items that might contain cracks. And you're going to see when we create the application for cracks, it's going to directly use the input subject that we've just created here. So I've dragged in 100 samples. You see them here. It doesn't populate the thumbnail just to kind of make performance that much quicker on the upload. And you can see it's 100 media. These are relatively small sample synthetic images. But if yours were larger, it would just take a little bit longer depending upon the size of the files. I'm going to go ahead and upload, and you'll see there's a progress bar. There's 100 of these. When it's all done, it'll give you an indication, and then you can close out. And now you've got your first input subject that now has media in it and can be attached directly to an application for processing.